Are you saying you brought us into a minefield?
Well, yeah, but it's a small one. What's wrong with you?
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 craziest things characters survived on The Walking Dead.
You know, when they found me, I was near bled out. Starving.
For this list, we're looking at the wildest instances where survivors escaped situations that should have spelled their certain doom. We'll only be looking at scenes that occurred in the original Walking Dead series because the other shows can fill up lists of their own. If you aren't caught up on the main series, beware of spoilers coming your way. Who do you think came closest to biting the dust? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Rick rides in and out of Atlanta.
Listen, one thing. They may not seem like much one at a time, but in a group all riled up and hungry, man, you watch your ass.
You too.
Back when Rick was a lot more naive about the undead apocalypse, he thought it would be a good idea to head into the city of Atlanta. He realizes just how wrong he was as soon as he rides into a gigantic crowd of walkers. After getting surrounded on all sides, he manages to crawl right under a tank. This move turns out to be his saving grace. As Rick catches his breath inside the tank, he gets a radio message from a nearby Glenn.
Hey, you. Dumbass. Yeah, you in the tank. You cozy in there?
The two immediately work together to get to a much safer location in the city. While Glenn still makes fun of Rick for going to Atlanta in the first place, at least the officer lives to reflect on his mistakes.
Nice moves there, Clint Eastwood. You the new sheriff? Come riding in to clean up the town?
Wasn't my intention.
Yeah, whatever. Yeehaw. You're still a dumbass.
Number 9. Daryl and Aaron endure a wolf trap.
We'll need to feed them. All right.
Two of our heroes thought they hit the jackpot when they found food trucks behind a gate. Unfortunately, their discovery was too good to be true. Once they open a truck, they set off a huge trap laid by the twisted wolves that unleashes tons of walkers. The duo barely manages to escape by taking refuge in a car. However, it quickly becomes apparent that their chances of getting out unscathed are pretty much slim to none.
We fight. We go for the fence. We do it together. All right, whether we make it or not, we do it together.
Fortunately, Morgan makes a grand appearance and helps them get out of their impossible situation at the last second. The last-minute assist doesn't diminish how miraculous the scene is. Aaron and Daryl were extremely lucky that the wolf trap didn't take them out immediately.
That was... Thank you.
Number 8. Maggie makes it out of a dark tunnel alive.
Look, you all want to put your lives in her hands. Her head isn't even in the game because I'm in her head, living rent-free.
When Negan and Maggie are forced to travel through a subway tunnel together, they meet a ton of undead resistance. They're eventually cornered and forced to climb on top of a subway car to survive. But since the duo had a lot of bad blood between them, Negan decides not to help Maggie escape. The disoriented and abandoned warrior is still able to take out a few of the walkers on her heels. With no other options left, she crawls underneath the train until she regroups with her allies. Although Negan was probably hoping she'd be overwhelmed, Maggie proved she was way too tough to let walkers take her out in a dark tunnel. She also lived to give Negan some painful payback.
I slipped. He saw, and he left me to die.
Number 7. Daryl endures Alpha's attacks.
Pain made me. Pain made you.
Daryl's attempt to defeat Head Whisperer Alpha and 3 of her followers goes south almost immediately. After taking out 3 grunts, he receives several cuts, gets partially blinded, and ends up with a knife in his leg. Daryl just manages to keep walkers and Alpha herself at bay while he can barely see. Just when he thinks he's reached a safe place, the Whisperer leader sends several walkers his way. Daryl is forced to use everything from a fire extinguisher to the same knife that wounded him to take out his undead foes. He understandably needs medical attention from Lydia in the wake of this harrowing day. Although we knew Daryl was tough, we were still stunned that Alpha's attacks didn't keep him down.
How long have I been asleep for?
Most of the day.
You were just out here.
Number 6. Glenn finds an unlikely hiding place.
Look at me! Hey! Nicholas! Look at me!
After an Alexandrian named Nicholas decides he can't escape a crowd of undead, he permanently removes himself from the situation. Unfortunately, his final act knocks Glenn into a bunch of hungry walkers.
Thank you.
The show initially made it look like both men perished that day. However, Glenn proved himself as one of the most resourceful survivors ever by crawling underneath a dumpster while the walkers were distracted. He also showed his mental resilience by waiting underneath the trashy item until all his enemies cleared out. Admittedly, a number of fans were unhappy with Glenn's fake-out demise, but they were all unquestionably excited to see him make it out of this fatal scenario in one piece.
You honor the dead by going on, even when you're scared. You live because they don't get to.
Number 5. Daryl recovers from a not-so-great fall.
Maybe we'll pick up our trail again.
Well, maybe about it. I'm gonna borrow a horse. Head up to this ridge right here. Get a bird's eye view of the whole grid. If she's up there, I'll spot her. Good idea.
While Daryl was searching for Sophia solo, he's thrown down a steep hill. To add injury to injury, he realizes he landed on an arrow. The wounded Daryl attempts to climb the hill shortly after the initial incident. But after falling again, he starts hallucinating and seeing his brother.
You're gonna die on here, little brother. And for what?
Girl. I lost a little girl.
Daryl has to ignore his fake sibling, defeat walkers, remove the arrow that injured him to use as a weapon, and then climb up the hill. But his suffering wasn't over yet. Upon arriving at camp, Andrea mistakes Daryl for a walker and shoots at him. Most survivors probably wouldn't have been able to endure the fall alone, but that terrifying tumble was just the opening act of Mr. Dixon's incredible survival story.
I could have told you she'd throw you if you bothered to ask. It's a wonder you people have survived this long.
Number 4. Rick's group escapes Terminus.
You don't have to do this, man. We can put the world back to how it was.
Can't go back, Bob.
During one of the darkest hours for our heroes, they were tied up, stripped of their weapons, and left at the mercy of the sadistic people of Terminus. Just when Glenn is about to become the first person to go, Carol sets off a huge explosion. Rick uses a tiny piece of wood to free himself and start turning the tide. He takes down roaming walkers, steals a gun from an enemy, and frees all his trapped allies. Together, everyone in Rick's group fights their way out.
Fly to the fence! Do not leave his side!
It is a miracle that all of our heroes evaded Terminus natives and roaming walkers. While Carol and Rick are the MVPs of this tremendous escape, all of the heroes deserve credit for getting out of Terminus alive.
Did you do that?
Number 3. Emerging from a Whisperer cave.
You can use those to jump across.
Nice.
Wait. Through?
Being trapped in a dimly lit Whisperer cave full of an untold number of walkers already sounds like the worst day ever. But not only did a group of survivors deal with limited visibility and undead, but they also had to avoid enemies in the shadows and crawl through tight spaces. Our heroes understandably lost their cool a few times while traversing through this horrific location.
I can't.
Yes, you can. Come on. We're gonna get through this together.
And when they finally reached sunlight, they had to deal with even more enemies and a cave-in. Although 2 of the heroes were separated from their friends after part of the cavern collapsed, they still got out alive. A cave that should have claimed at least one life was just another arena to demonstrate how unstoppable our heroes had become.
We don't want our backs pressed against this mountain when they come. We can't save them if we're dead.
Number 2. A severely injured Rick tanks an explosion.
Yeah, wake up, asshole.
It seemed like Rick's time in the apocalypse was coming to an end after he was gravely wounded by a piece of rebar. However, he manages to stay ahead of a huge amount of walkers while slipping in and out of consciousness. Although Rick almost reunites with his family, he didn't want to lead a horde of undead their way. He decides to set off an explosion that sends him and the walkers into a river.
I found him.
Neither the blood loss he suffered nor the huge fireball are enough to put him in the ground. In fact, Rick's ally Ann gets him onto a helicopter to get medical attention. While his future remains unclear, we're still blown away that he made it through this hellish day.
You're gonna be okay. We're gonna save you.
Drifting on the spaceway.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Glenn fights a walker while tied to a chair. He manages to use the furniture that held him back to conquer the undead. Michonne escapes living and undead enemies. She eludes hungry walkers and fights multiple armed men at the same time. Daryl and Carol get into a serious car crash. They survive this wild method of escaping walkers thanks to seatbelts. A surrounded Tyrese defeats multiple enemies. We still don't know how he got away from walkers with just a hammer. Beta gets knocked down an elevator shaft. After this incident, we wondered if this villain was actually a walker. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Survivors liberate their city.
We can beat them! We can beat them!
The residents of Alexandria thought there was nothing they could do when their city was overrun by walkers. But everything changed once Carl Grimes received a gruesome facial injury. Unable to help his son recover, Rick decides to spend his time eliminating every walker in sight. At first, he takes on a seemingly endless horde of enemies with nothing more than a hatchet. But his act of bravery inspires every able fighter in Alexandria to fight.
Guys, it's thinning out there in front. We need to get out there. Rick's making a stand.
How's that?
Not a single Alexandrian dies after Rick showed everyone they could still make a difference. And as an added bonus, Carl survives his injury. The incredible sight of one community emerging united from a dark conflict gave us The Walking Dead's most inspiring story of survival.
I saw what they could do. What we could do if we worked together.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.